Catholic.
From the nation's capital to the Sunshine State.
It's compelling.
The high plains of Kansas and the northeast corner of the land of enchantment.
It's Friday.
The land of EWTN all across the Lone Star State.
It's GRN Alive.
Bringing you faith, fun, and facts.
Live from the studios of the Guadalupe Radio Network.
Join us on the show. Call
877-757-9424.
877-757-9424.
And good morning. Welcome to GRN Alive Friday edition on this beautiful August 14th, the 19th week in Ordinary Time. And also today, the memorial, the feast day, I always get those mixed up. I wish I had a theologian in the house. I didn't.
But a liturgical theologian.
Yeah, right. Okay, so officially on the USCCB website, it says Memorial of St. Maximilian Kolbe, priest and martyr today. But
it's his feast day.
His feast day.
Absolutely.
And, they call it a memorial. It's a feast day. So anyways, we lift up our prayers to him. What's that?
19 years ago, I was in, I was there in Poland.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, on the anniversary.
Oh, wow.
It was, I forget which anniversary it was of his death, but
yeah.
Awesome.
It's liturgically rich time because I'm going to see if we can connect a couple of liturgical things. By the way, Dr. Chris Malloy, whose voice you just heard.
Good morning.
Author, teacher, all things good. How you doing? Good to see you.
I'm doing well. Original sin, too, but effaced in baptism.
And your book is coming along. I want to talk to you about that in a second.
The publisher, I got an acceptance from a publisher. I'm not going to announce it just now.
Okay.
But,
is it somebody like a name that everybody would recognize? Like,
yeah.
Oh, okay. It's not like some obscure publisher like
no.
Dave Palmer Publishing or
That's
something,
right. ChrisMalloy.com.
So, congratulations.
Thank you.
And it's called Against Recent Heresies.
That's right. Defusing Confusion.
Okay. And recent heresies, does that mean it's not something that goes back, the same kind of heresy that we might have had?
Heresies keep coming back. So a lot of these, have been around, but they're things that people are doubting now.
Okay.
And just for various reasons.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons is just, the episcopacy not clarifying things. So people are like, what? Do we believe that anymore? They're getting dizzy. It's not really designed for non-Catholics. It's designed for Catholics who really want to hold the faith, but they're a little confused right now.
Right.
So that's who it's designed for.
Oh, okay. But you'll let non-Catholics buy it.
Oh, of course. Of course.
Okay.
Because some of them, like I say in the preface, that our Jewish midwife was almost offered us like condolences because of the kind of confusions going on now.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I'm like, thank you. I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. In fact, this morning I went and I looked at the catechism teaching on certain moral issues just to say confirm. Yes, this is what the Catholic Church teaches. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. Cecil Anderson is also here. She is not back on vacation. She's here 2 weeks
also
in a row now.
Also not an author of a book.
Not yet.
Not yet.
She's got her own show
Directress
here locally, Young and Present. And so, how you doing? Good to see you.
Thank you.
All right. So, this date in 1941, St. Maximilian Kolbe died, and then the next day, his remains were cremated. And I was thinking, like, gosh, they had cremation back then, but it probably wasn't his choice. I mean, because he was in a concentration camp. They probably just dumped him into a pile or something, right?
Yeah. Typically with the things, the bodies pile up,
Yeah.
you know, and then they put them in there. But here they were in a bunker. They were starved to death.
Yeah, and
Singing
he was the last one to
songs.
die.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've got.
songs.
Yes.
I pulled up some fascinating facts about St. Maximilian Kolbe. We'll talk about in a second. St. John Paul II visited his death chamber in Auschwitz, 1979, proclaimed him patron saint of our difficult age. And so I think that certainly would apply to today as well. And by the way, we are going guestless today. Okay, guest lists, meaning we have no guests. Last week we had 3 guests, and so sometimes we have a lot, sometimes we don't have any, but that also highlights the importance of you, dear listener, chiming in and being part of the program. And so I'm going to give out the phone number, and if you feel compelled at any point during the program to talk, give your opinion, ask a question, we really appreciate hearing from you. And I think last week we had several calls, and of course we broadcast all over the network, from D.C. and Florida, Alabama, Kansas, New Mexico, Texas, I think I hit all the states. And so we want to hear from you. 877-757-9424, 877-757-9424. Diane Xavier is here also, and she does a fabulous job on our social media platforms. So if you want to not only listen, but watch and see what we look like and behind the scenes, go to Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter. And the handle is at GRN Online, at GRN Online. Maximilian Kolbe also used the media to fight the evils of his day. He organized also the Militia Immaculata. And also tomorrow is the Solemnity of the Assumption of the Blessed Virgin Mary.
Amen.
And that was, people may not realize this. This was only dogmatically, infallibly declared 1950.
Dogmatically.
Yeah, dogmatically, of course. And we're going to talk about that later on in the program. Can you pronounce this?
Munificentissimus.
Wow. Okay. Deus. Pope Pius XII proclaimed the Assumption of Mary a dogma of the Catholic Church. And we'll talk about that in just a minute. And what I really want to talk about is the connection between the two. Martyrdom and Assumption, and how is this all connected to us today? And I think there's a lot to talk about. We're also going to have some of the stories in the news here with Cecil Anderson in just a minute. A couple of things before we get to the news, though. In our Washington, D.C. station, WMET 1160 AM, next Thursday, August 20th, they're going to have their Fishers of Men dinner, which is going to be a local event. It's going to be at the Bellhaven Country Club in Alexandria, Virginia. Celebrate 20 years of Catholic radio on the Guadalupe Radio Network. The keynote speaker, I don't know if you've heard of him, Dr. Malloy, Father Hezekias Carnazzo.
No.
I got into the car this morning early. Sunrise Morning Show is on. He was their guest. He's a great theologian. And
That's fantastic.
So graduated from Christendom College in 2004, master's degree in systematic theology. Don't you? You teach that, don't you? Yeah. And speaking of,
and where's he a priest?
He has his own parish in somewhere, I think, in Virginia, but I don't know.
Nice.
I'm not sure the name of his parish, but University of Dallas is starting up in-person classes.
In person. The students have an option if they want to do online, but we are going. A number of us faculty, most of us, are going to be there on ground. So I know that there are some Catholic schools out there that have closed the on ground. So if you want to go on ground, call up University of Dallas. There are a few spaces.
My brother is starting. He'll go to orientation
Sweet.
today. Yeah.
That's cool. And I'm a graduate of UD. Got my master's degree there. I remember visiting you in your office and going in there years ago and asking questions. Little did I know that we'd be doing radio together one day. All right, so that again, the Fishers of Men dinner for Washington, D.C. and WMET in D.C. is going to be next Thursday, August 20th. And I know Joe Schuler and Mike Washabaugh I think they still have maybe some tickets available. Just go to the website, grnonline.com, and see if there are any tickets available. I know it's going to be limited seating and probably distancing and all that, but it's going to be an in-person event. Fall Share-a-thon begins 4 weeks from next Tuesday.
Oh, my goodness.
Can you believe it?
I know.
And it's really cool. I got to do, every Share-a-thon, we give away a CD of some speaker, Scott Hahn or Father Ricardo or something, and we decided the last two Share-a-thons to start doing in-house talks. And so last Share-a-thon for the summer, Joe McLean from our Houston station, well, he now is director of mission and development, but he did the talk called Zeal for Souls.
Sweet.
And I got to do this one.
Nice.
And so the talk for the fall Share-a-thon is called The Joy of Hope, which ties in perfectly. In fact, I talk about Maximilian Kolbe in my talk.
Great.
Oh, nice.
About how could he have maintained joy under his circumstances. I argue, I think he could. He could have. I mean, despite how the horrific circumstances he was under. I talked about the nuns of Compiègne. I talked about Therese of Lisieux dying in her, before she hit 25 years old of tuberculosis. And I think her autobiography would attest to the fact that she remained joyful. I mean, in the midst of incredible suffering.
Pain, yeah.
So anyways, that's coming up on September 15th, the Fall Share-a-thon. So we hope you'll make plans to donate for that.
Sweet. That's all week, right?
Tuesday through Friday.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you have time to get ready on Monday.
Yeah, you can check your bank account and see how much money you have and make that big
Transfers.
check, right? Yeah. All right. So, again, love to hear from you, 877-757-9424. And let me say one more thing before we go to Sissel for some of the news that's going on. We have a very close relationship, all of our stations do, with the local pro-life groups and apostolates throughout the network. And here in North Texas, there is the Catholic pro-life community. And pro-life in Dallas is very important because Roe v. Wade got started in Dallas. The original Roe v. Wade was filed in downtown Dallas, and so it's very important. But they, like many other apostolates, have Rachel Vineyard-type retreats for men. And they have one, it's called Project Joseph, and they're offering a virtual retreat for men who are suffering the effects of past abortions. You'd be surprised.
Wow.
I mean, you think like abortion's just a women's issue, but I've interviewed a lot of men who suffer for decades because they either, talked their girlfriend or wife or daughter into having an abortion. They drove them there. They paid for it, and they never quite forgave themselves. And so, anyways, there's going to be a Project Joseph virtual kind of Zoom type of retreat this Sunday. And if you're a man and you're listening right now and thinking, okay, that's me, and you want to have healing from that, you can still sign up. And so I told him I'd mention this because we're going to be talking about some issues touching on abortion today. 469-720-CARE, 469-720-CARE. It doesn't matter where you are. It's virtual, so that means everybody can participate. If you're a man, again, struggling with the pain and maybe you're having a hard time forgiving yourself, God will forgive you. And so I just want to mention that as well. All right, it is 11 minutes after the hour. This is GRN Alive Friday edition. Thanks for joining us. And Sissel has been scouring through the news to see what's going on. What's going on, Sissel?
Well, the big news that came from yesterday is the Middle East Peace Treaty. If you've heard of this, the Israel and the United Arab Emirates agreed to end decades of enmity on a historic deal that was announced by President Trump that would put the Israeli annexation of the West Bank lands on hold as a condition of normalizing relations, with the goal of hopefully one day there being trade, travel to and from directly so that Israeli can go and shop. And it's a lot of plans for it. It's currently just a statement, no more than a statement of intent right now. But this would be the only third country in Arab that has diplomatic relations with the Jewish nation, which is kind of crazy. Yeah.
I think it's a pretty big deal.
It is a big deal.
But I think in an election year, a lot of people don't want on one side don't want to talk about it. And we're just all too wrapped up in the election.
There's so much going on.
People are like, "Oh, okay, a piece of core in the Middle East. Okay, all right."
I heard the director of national security said this could be worthy of the Nobel Prize.
Yeah,
maybe that's a little bit premature.
Wow.
But that's what he said.
Yeah, I don't know. That'd be interesting if that did happen. I think there's a lot of politics involved in that.
I don't see that.
Definitely.
Yeah, I don't see
Definitely,
that.
yeah.
But we'll see. Anyway, I'm glad we brought that up because that is a pretty big story. But I think it's kind of getting buried in a lot of the other things going on, such as
this week was also the week that Joe Biden announced his running mate, which is going to be Kamala Harris, who has an interesting background with the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
So she. When he announced that, I was like, this name sounds awfully familiar. And I remember because we had discussed it, I think, on the show when she had talked against the Knights of Columbus when she was evaluating the nomination of Brian Boucher back in as a district judge in Nebraska. And she had some opposing views about that. Particularly that his membership of the Knights of Columbus could potentially compromise his position, which brought up a lot about your religion and your job and stuff like that.
Well, it's interesting because I don't know if you saw this week. Joe Biden put out I think it was yesterday.
Yep.
He put out a video which is kind of touting his Catholic faith. And it's like a minute long, and I think they're going to play it at the Democratic Convention is going to be next week, right? And he talks, it says this is the kind of moral conviction we need in the President of the United States. And he talked about visiting the Vatican and shaking hands and meeting Pope Francis. And I'm kind of paraphrasing, but he says, the first people I saw were a group of nuns who epitomized to me everything that Pope Francis is talking about regarding being our brother's keeper, reaching out to other people. And then he said something interesting. He said it was a good omen. He called it a good omen that I guess he was going to be running for president. And anyways, he said being raised a Catholic and being educated by nuns made a big influence on me. We're our brother's keepers.
Which is crazy because that he just, recently when the Supreme Court ruled in favor of the Little Sisters of the Poor, he was the one who came out and said that he didn't agree with that. And he puts this video with is praising nuns.
Yeah, and then he picks, and this is the irony, is he picks a vice president who kind of, all but made a litmus test against this Brian Boucher for the district judgeship in Nebraska of being a Catholic.
Yep.
And she says, Senator Harris back then during those confirmation hearings said the Knights opposed a woman's, quote, right to choose and asked Boucher if he knew about that stance when he joined. Calling the Knights, quote, an all-male society comprised primarily of Catholic men. I think it's all Catholic men. You have to be a Catholic. So she's a little off there. She also asked the nominee if he agreed with Supreme Knight Carl Anderson's previous statements that abortion is, quote, the killing of the innocent on a massive scale, which has, quote, resulted in more than 40 million deaths.
She also asked, were you aware that the Knights oppose marriage equality?
Yeah.
It's a very passive-aggressive way of saying that.
Now, here's the thing about that is really the listeners should look at the church's document called Participation in Political Life from, I think it's 2004. Very important document because they outline the non-negotiables when you're voting. And what are the non-negotiables? Well, the first one they identify is abortion, then euthanasia, then the family, safeguarded, quote-unquote, monogamous marriage between a man and a woman for life.
Yeah.
And then they talk about the education of the children. We're talking about the right of parents to educate their children, like school choice, right? All these kinds of things are integral to the Catholic vision.
Yeah.
They also talk about peace, which is important. This touches what happened this summer. Peace demands the absolute and radical rejection of violence and terrorism and requires a constant and vigilant commitment on the part of political leaders. No, vigilance, that means you have to protect your people.
Yeah.
You can't defund, massively defund those who are protecting the people.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. It's going back to the issue with Senator Harris and Knights of Columbus. The irony, I guess, is that Joe Biden is touting his Catholicism, which he's a baptized Catholic. There was some, I don't know if you saw the tweet that Bishop Tobin from Rhode Island put out. Let me see if I can find that. It was Bishop Tobin from Rhode Island tweeted, Biden Harris, first time in a while that the Democratic ticket hasn't had a Catholic on it. And so, he's being facetious. He's basically saying that Biden's not a Catholic. Of course, that created quite a firestorm
Tobin,
as well.
of all people. Wow.
Yeah. Well, there's two Tobins. This is there's.
That's right.
Yeah.
Providence.
There's a Joseph Tobin. Then this is Thomas Tobin. There's
from Providence.
Yeah. The one's from New Jersey and one's from Rhode Island. Yeah. 877-757-9424. One other thing I'll say, there's a representative, Tulsi Gabbard from Hawaii. She ran for president. She was in the debate. She's the one that's getting a lot of attention now because she had a lot of back and forths with Senator Kamala Harris during the debates. She criticized other Democrats back at the time of Brian Boucher, who was, like we said, a district judgeship nominee in Nebraska. And she said, is he disqualified because of his Catholicism and his membership in the Knights of Columbus? Both Harris and Gabbard's fellow Hawaii Democrat, Senator Mazi Hirono, have honed in on his membership of the Knights. Tulsi Gabbard said, the party that works so hard to convince people that Catholics and Knights of Columbus members like Al Smith and John F. Kennedy could be both good Catholics and good public servants show an alarming disregard of its own history in making such attacks today. That's a good point. Because it's the Democrats who were trying back in 1960 saying, hey, John F. Kennedy can be a good Catholic and a good president at the same time. And now there seems to be some people saying that's not possible.
Well, you use what you can as a weapon. That's basically what they're doing, trying to find any kind of weapon.
Yeah. And let's see. Okay, and the other thing that we probably want to point up about the David Daleiden, because
absolutely.
Harris was
she the prosecutor?
She was the state district. She was the attorney that basically brought attorney general at the time that brought charges against Daleiden, I believe. Yes. And
his house was raided, or apartment.
Yeah.
Why? Because he was investigating Planned Parenthood.
Right. But she had also supported undercover investigations of animal abuse and cruelty to animals, and so she allowed that. But when it came to selling, aborted baby parts, then that's where she drew the line, and that's where she wanted to prosecute. Apparently, 877-757-9424, 877-757-9424, and this is GRN Alive Friday edition. We're going rogue. We go no guests, but we do have calls that have come in. We're going to go to those. 877-757-9424. Father Paul from St. Monica Parish in Dallas has called in. Hi, Father Paul. Thank you for calling.
Hey, good morning, Dave, Dr. Barloy.
Good morning.
To hear you.
Thank you.
I was listening to your coverage, and on radio today, for the first time, the Emperor of Japan went on the radio 75 years ago today and announced the end of the war with Japan, the Empire of Japan. He mentioned total and unconditional surrender. So the last moment of our war with Japan is connected with the last moment of Our Lady's life on earth. And the first moment of our war with Japan in 1941 was Our Lady's Immaculate Conception.
Yeah.
Because they left Japan on December 8th and arrived at Pearl Harbor on December 7th because they crossed the international date line.
Wow.
Yeah. It all kind of ties together, doesn't it?
Father Paul, can you verify?
Our Lady's hand.
Can you verify that there was there's some connection with the Maximilian Kolbe, I believe, because he had a mission in Japan. I believe some of those Catholics. I heard this anecdote that some of the Catholics in the area said that they would be. Now, this doesn't justify the bombing of innocents. I'm not. That's a problem. But that apparently Mary said to them that they would be the victims for sacrifice for the end of the war, something to that effect, like that their sacrifice would bring about an end of the war. Did you know?
Right. The Japanese word is hanzai, which means a burnt offering.
And that's what.
And he started. St. Maximilian Kolbe traveled to Japan because he met some Japanese in Europe on a train. They invited him to Japan, and he started a monastery just outside of Nagasaki because he did not have the money to build inside. And that monastery was totally untouched except for one glass pane in a window. Those monks, those Franciscans left and served the people in Nagasaki. But no, you're exactly right. The Hanzai, they offered, to bring an end to the war, peace to Japan, they would be willing to offer themselves as a hanzai, a burnt offering.
That's awesome.
Hey, Father Paul, I know you are probably more in tune with dates and events than anybody I know. Cecil just brought some attention to me. Do you know that there's somebody whose cause of canonization that's underway right now? We actually talked about it last week, so that's another clue. And he died on this date. Do you know who that is?
Who would that be?
Father Michael McGivney.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting?
It's a great weekend in the Catholic Church.
It certainly is. Certainly is amazing.
Yeah. Father Paul, thanks so much for calling. Appreciate you calling in and making those connections.
God bless.
God bless.
Thanks so much. 877-757-9424, 877-757-9424. I wanted to talk about, Maximilian Kolbe today because I think courage is something that is in short supply. I certainly feel it. I mean, there's courage is tough in a day like this. It's so easy to conform. It's so easy to just kind of lay down and, kind of go get along to go along to get along and not cause any riff. And it's, there's a lot of pushback if you do support the Catholic Church's teachings. I want to kind of juxtapose Maximilian Kolbe and what he did, willing to lay down his life. He fought Freemasonry. He fought
Yes, he
communism.
did.
He was outspoken. He was in the media. He ended up, being poisoned to death. they couldn't. They put him in a group, and he wouldn't die. And so they're like, how are we going to get rid of this guy? I think they tried to starve him, right?
Yeah, the whole bunch of them they starved.
Compare this, and I'm probably going to get some sports fans a little rustled here, but a great article that I found in LifeSite News by a guy named Doug Mainwaring, and it's called Black Lives Matter's Founders Have Emasculated Professional Sports. Subtitled, Hundreds of Professional Ball Players in Recent Weeks Quietly Surrendered Themselves to the Abhorrent Ideology of the Black Lives Matter organization. I'll read part of it. He said, we have witnessed an unthinkable degradation as the whole country watched 3 Marxist women forced nearly every Major League Baseball player to kneel before them in their strange countercultural creed. He claims in this article, and I assume he's right. I mean, I didn't do the counting, that, because baseball is back, right? And so they had their opening weekend, they had their opening games. There's, I guess, 750 approximately baseball players. And when they play the national anthem before the games, how many of those 750 refused to kneel? Take a guess.
Or just stood?
Or stood during the national anthem,
No idea.
like everybody would have done.
No idea.
One.
Are you kidding me?
Wow.
One person. Now, this is according to this article, okay? He goes on, by bending their knees, these men have paid homage not to civil rights, but to Marxism, to the destruction of the nuclear family, to transgender and gay political power, squashing not just religious liberty, but religion itself, to the defunding of police, to the erasure of Western history and culture. The great American pastime is no longer great. In fact, it's no longer American. He said the revolution was over before it began, as hundreds of professional ball players in recent weeks quietly surrendered themselves to the abhorrent ideology of Black Lives Matter, founded in 2013. The queer-affirming women who started this organization, these words, pulled off a mass castration of the players, Judeo-Christian beliefs, and whatever patriotism they held in their hearts. What's more, the emasculization of these athletes was televised. So every young boy, every young girl is watching their heroes kneel, every 749 of them, and one stood for the flag. Makes you think of Drew Brees. Drew Brees comes out in an interview and says, I think everybody should stand and be patriotic and, I'm paraphrasing, and support the flag. And
He got excoriated.
And then the mob just descends upon him. And what does he do? Does he say, no, that's what I believe. I'm sorry. These are my beliefs, and I'm going to stand by him. What does he do? I'm sorry. I didn't mean that. And then his wife comes out later and says, you know what? We are the problem. What? Where did that come from? Okay, so
there's moral roots to this thing, and that's I think the difficulty in navigating forward. It's the same thing with PC in general. There's moral roots, and they actually come from Christianity, from the dignity of the person.
Yeah.
I'm convinced of it, and so, but it's twisted. So like we have to respect the dignity of every person, regardless of their race, their skin color, etc. Absolutely, but then you twist it, and suddenly you sneak in all these weird ideas that are foreign to human nature.
And the interesting thing is, there's been pushback against Black Lives Matter, but they've never renounced any of their claims on their website. In fact, I haven't been to their website lately, but I don't think anything's changed.
I haven't seen it.
This author said the Black Lives Matter organization has never repudiated nor denied its manifesto and practices, which are committed to Marxism, which includes atheism, a rewriting of history, hate for anyone who disagrees with them, and anti-Semitism. This is according to Rabbi Michael Barclay. He wrote an article called I'm Boycotting Professional Sports Leagues That Endorse Black Lives Matter, and So Should You. He said, we now live in an environment where bullies filled with hate have the ability to dictate practices, where the loudest shout down what is right and righteous to push people to surrender to their dogma, and their hate has now pushed itself into acceptance on the institutional level. None of this should be surprising. Major League Baseball was already poised to make this. Last year, every single Major League Baseball team hosted a Pride Night, except for the Houston Astros and the Texas Rangers, although both those teams have held homosexual pride events previously.
Wow.
It's total capitulation.
Yeah.
And all the other leagues have done the same thing. And everybody just continues to watch and support and,
You like watching the stuff, but man, now you're getting caught up with this.
Yeah. We're going to take a break here in a moment. Let's go to Maria real quickly. Phone number 877-757-9424. And then compare all this to Maximilian Kolbe. I mean, I think that's
a breath of fresh air.
We need some Kolbes in our age. We need people to say, you know what, this is what I believe, and I'm willing to die for it. And I don't care. The mob can come against me, and I may lose my job or my popularity or my income. But it doesn't matter. Maybe I'm going to lose my starting quarterback position with New Orleans Saints or that great sponsorship deal with Nike. But hey, this is what I believe. All right, Maria, thanks for calling. We got a break here in about 1 minute. What's on your mind?
Hi, Dave.
Hello.
I just want to say that God has done a mighty thing for me because He gave me a grace and a gift to go to Poland and visit Maximilian Kolbe's Zeal and Auschwitz. And so I consider the declaration of that person in Japan, Maximilian Kolbe's miracle through the prayers of the Immaculata and the army of the Immaculata. And this miracle is amongst many from Maximilian Kolbe.
Yeah. All right. Amen. Well, thank you.
That's powerful. Going to Auschwitz and there was a moment where we saw the suitcases and the shoes of little kids.
Right.
And we literally fell to the floor. I mean, it's just. So you think of what happened to all those people, mostly Jews. There were also some Catholics rounded up there in Maximilian Kolbe.
I've never been there, but I did go to the home of Anne Frank, in
nice.
Holland, because my wife used to live in Holland, and we went and visited there. And that's just being in a place like that, knowing the history and what happened at a place like that it is very powerful. Yeah.
Before we take a break, can I just say one more thing on Maximilian Kolbe?
Yeah. Oh, yes.
I actually got to participate in a local video project for young adults a couple years ago that was all about St. Maximilian Kolbe, and we did a short film on his time in that bunker when they set them in there. And it's really a beautiful film. So if anyone would be interested in watching it and learning more, it's called Into Death and Beyond It on Vimeo. So. All
right. Real quick, we are going to take a break. This is GRN Alive, 877-757-9424. Just got a text regarding the article about baseball. This person says that article is wrong. There were some players that kneeled during the anthem. There was a pregame opening ceremony where they had a moment of silence. That's where the majority were kneeling. The anthem played after. During the Cubs-Brewers game on opening day, no one kneeled during the anthem. Okay, well, I assume that this is correct as well. So
that's a way of handling it is to kneel and frankly in prayer for peace in the nation,
absolutely.
Not necessarily for this movement, capital letters movement, but for peace in the nation.
Right.
Yeah, there's an image back when there was a lot of riots going on that of a sister kneeling with protesters praying the rosary, which I thought was really beautiful.
Yeah. Maybe there is some kind of compromise that can be made, but I don't know.
But here's the thing about patriotism. You're not saying I like the reigning president. I like the Congress. You're saying I love this people. I love this land. That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
That's what patriotism is. It's not a political thing.
Right.
It's also the virtue of piety, right?
Yes.
Piety,
we owe it.
Love of our parents and love of our land.
The patria, absolutely.
Yeah. And I think there are some people that don't like America. I mean, I think there are a lot of people that are trying to fundamentally change the country.
When there are presidents that make me really worried that I'm going to lose basic fundamental rights and specifically Catholic practices, I still do the Pledge of Allegiance. I still do the
national anthem.
The national anthem. Yeah. I mean, come on.
All right. If you want to take, thanks for that text. I appreciate that information. I was going off the article that I had read from the LifeSite News. 877-757-9424. We're going to still talk more about Maximilian Kolbe and also about a priest was excommunicated in Sacramento. We can talk about that, excommunication, and also we'll close out the show talking about the feast, the solemnity that we're going to celebrate tomorrow in the church, which is the Assumption of the Blessed Virgin Mary. What is that all about, and what does it mean for us as Catholics today? We'll be back with more GRN Alive right after this.
Is the Lord calling you to be a missionary? Hi, Joe McClellan McLean here, and the Guadalupe Radio Network is calling for Rosary missionaries to join with the GRN in praying for very special intentions. Would you be one of them? Log on to grnonline.com/missionaries. Together, we can bring the power of prayer to bear on a dark world in need of the light of Christ. Log on to grnonline.com/missionaries.
Solidarity HealthShare is rebuilding Catholic healthcare in America. We conform to the moral guidelines of the Catholic Church, so you never have to worry about your healthcare dollars paying for anything that violates your conscience. From conception to natural death, we strive to serve all healthcare needs, protect human lives, celebrate families, and promote the dignity of all people. Join Solidarity HealthShare in restoring and rebuilding authentic Catholic healthcare by signing up at solidarityhealthshare.org, a sponsor of the Guadalupe Radio Network.
Hi, this is Len Oswald, president of the Guadalupe Radio Network with your GRN Family Minute. We operate this entire network of stations with just 18 full-time and 4 part-time GRN family members. We are so very thankful for all they do. Today, I have 2 GRN family members for you to come to know better. Dave Palmer lives in Dallas and is executive director of our North Texas operations. He also co-hosts GRN Alive and joined the GRN on March 30th, 2006. He and his wife Paula have 2 daughters and 1 son. Dave loves to look for snakes in the wild. Lisa Martinez is the GRN's database manager and lives in Midland, Texas, working in our foundation offices. She joined the GRN on September 19th, 2006. She and her husband Gilbert have 2 children and 4 grandchildren. Lisa loves playing with her grandkids. We are your Catholic radio, radio for your soul.
I love that. Those minutes, I love. Yeah, Cecil just said we got Len to talk about snakes with me and Batman with you, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I do like to I don't kill snakes. I catch them and release them. I love snakes. But anyway,
we were camping and we the guy caught one, killed it, and then we cooked it up.
Oh, is that right? Okay. Yeah, I would say that's okay. If you just
copperhead.
Oh.
You ate a copperhead.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. Well, that's kind of turning it around on the
we
snake.
We dodged the poison.
Yeah. So anyways, this is GRN Alive. Thanks for joining us. Dave Palmer, Dr. Chris Malloy from University of Dallas, and also Cecil Anderson and Diane Xavier running our social media platforms, 877-757-9424. Want to talk a little bit more about Maximilian Kolbe. His feast day is today. A few facts about him you may not realize, and then Dr. Malloy has some interesting facts about him as well. You know, he earned a doctorate in philosophy at the age of 21. He also earned a doctorate of theology. He founded monasteries in Poland, in Japan and India. He provided shelter for 2,000 Jews during World War II. He was, of course, arrested by the German Gestapo and taken to the prison, eventually transferred to Auschwitz. Let's see. He was killed by injection of carbolic acid. It was said that he calmly waited for the needle, raising his arm. Throughout these struggles, St. Maximilian Kolbe never abandoned his priesthood, and he died in this date, 1941, August 14th, 1941. And you said he some other facts about his time in the concentration camp?
Well, so you know why he died. Basically, this person escaped.
Yeah.
And so the Nazis said, okay, we're going to round up, I think, 10 people in atonement for this guy's escaping.
Right.
And when a man was called, he started crying. He said, I have a wife and children. And Maximilian Kolbe stood forward and said, may I take his place? Mm-hmm. And the Nazi kind of looked at him annoyed, but said, yes. That man was present at the canonization.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing.
It's awesome.
Yeah. That's kind of like Maria Goretti's killer being present at her canonization.
Yeah.
You know, like the... all right, so may St. Maximilian Kolbe intercede for us. I want to talk also about another story that made news recently, and that was the excommunication of a priest in Sacramento. And a Sacramento priest who had been exiled from the Roman Catholic Church by the Diocese of Sacramento for continuing to hold Mass and teach publicly during his suspension. He also refused to acknowledge the legitimacy of Pope Francis. Father Jeremy Leatherby incurred an automatic excommunication for offering Mass and teaching publicly to a number of the faithful and questioning the legitimacy of Pope Francis. According to his bishop, he substituted the Holy Father's name with the name of his predecessor during the Eucharistic prayer and omitted my name. This is what Bishop Jaime Soto said during the recitation of the Eucharistic prayer while offering Mass. He would celebrate Mass in union with Pope Benedict and not Pope Francis. And so he was excommunicated by his local bishop. And so obviously you've got to recognize Pope Francis as the legitimate pope. I mean, and you've got to use his name in the Eucharistic prayer. And so I don't know all the details. Of course, you read stories, but I think it's interesting in the fact that you don't hear much about excommunication these days, or anathema sit, as they used to say, right?
Well, yes, anathema sit. That's usually connected with a heresy, like a denial of a doctrine, but you can be excommunicated for various reasons, and it's even possible to be excommunicated for the wrong reason, right? I mean, it shouldn't happen that much, but the church notes that. You know, good theologians note that. I do want to add one thing about Father Leatherby.
Yeah,
the allegations, they're just allegations that we know of, but they're thick and they're really revolting. Okay. There are allegations against him, criminal conduct.
Oh, is that right?
I shouldn't say use the word criminal, but right, it's just vile conduct with women, whatnot. Excommunication.
Yeah,
you wanted to talk about excommunication generally.
Yeah, and also kind of related, Cardinal Raymond Burke came out this week, of course, former prefect of the Vatican's highest court. And he reiterated in an interview, and this was just Monday of this week, that so-called Catholic politicians must be denied communion for advocating policies contrary to natural law and basic church teaching, including on the topics of abortion and homosexuality. He said, quote, "They may not present themselves to receive Holy Communion because they're not in communion with Christ." Burke said during an August 8th interview with Martha McCallum, "It's not punishment. Actually, it's a favor to these people to tell them don't approach, because if they do approach, they commit sacrilege." And so I know that procuring abortion or doing an abortion is an automatic excommunication offense. And I've been surprised, a lot of people have been surprised that there hasn't been more disciplinary action against on this topic, you know. And so anyways, if you want to just talk generally about excommunication
I think I might be mistaken, but I think Cardinal Burke was talking about refraining from participating in the Eucharist. He wasn't talking
about excommunication. But I'm just connecting it because some people say, well, why can't we excommunicate the politicians?
Right,
you know? And I don't even know if that's a valid excommunication just for promoting it publicly. I think a lot of people say that would be, well, it's certainly reason not to receive the Eucharist, but you have to be participating actively.
In the act, yeah.
Anyways, so generally speaking about excommunication.
So what is it? I mean, what it is exclusion from the society of the church.
Yeah.
Okay. And some people don't realize that. It's not just simply refraining from these, but it's exclusion from all the rights that are rooted in baptism. Right now, you're still a baptized person, and so you still have this title to those rights.
Yeah.
But the title is obscured by your behavior, and the church can come in with her law and say, we exclude you from the exercise of those rights. So, for instance, to be able to publicly worship with the church, access to the sacraments, that kind of thing. Now, there used to be two different kinds of excommunication. We no longer practice those, but one of the practices used to be that you and I should avoid that person socially who has been excommunicated. Now, and nowadays, that's not part of the thing. It's just the exclusion from the practices, right? Of course, can you still pray? Obviously, you're encouraged to pray.
Yeah.
Why excommunication? Actually, the number one reason is not for the benefit of the excommunicant in all cases, right? In some cases, the number one reason is to protect the body of the faithful. Because this person's harming the church. So we need to excommunicate him to realize, hey, that person is let's say it's a bishop or a priest or some, I don't know, theologian or whatever, that we need to say, hey, that person is not part of this, no longer part of this body actively. And excommunication always holds out the hope that they'll return. So it always is medicinal for that person, but that's not the highest end of the church or the immediate end of the church in all cases. Abortion, let's say anyone who procures abortion and knows or should know the law of the church that entails automatic excommunication, they're excommunicated. That's for the benefit of the individual, not really for the church, because it might not even be, you might not know about it. Right?
Right.
It's just the person who obtained this would know about it.
Yeah. I guess the excommunication is kind of like automatic in the case.
In
but
that
like
case.
you said, if you don't even know that you're excommunicated if you're a Catholic. But I guess the reason I brought Cardinal Burke in is that it's not excommunication, but it certainly would be good for the faithful if there were some disciplinary action against people who are supporting publicly abortion.
Whose platform says, we will do everything in our power to codify Roe v. Wade. If there's a politician like that, it would do the faithful a lot of good for them to hear that that this is, first of all, against Catholic teaching, and that person shouldn't come forward to receive Eucharist.
Yeah. We have a comment on Facebook, or did Diane, who put that? Diane, somebody was asking. Anyways, I'm trying to make sense of this because people are communicating with us. I couldn't quite understand what the message was said there. Anyways, we're down to our last 15 minutes of the program. This is GRN Alive Friday edition. We're talking about a number of things. Maximilian Kolbe, the Assumption, we're going to talk about in a second. And also excommunication and how it all ties together. Courage in our day, which I think an age that definitely calls for courage. 877-757-9424. If you want to join us, you can also watch us on our social media platforms of YouTube and Facebook and Twitter as well. We love to hear from you, and a lot of people apparently want to talk about Maximilian Kolbe, because I love how John Paul II said, a saint during these difficult times. I think we need saints like this.
So loving, so tender, and so firm. I mean, just great combinations.
Yeah.
Awesome. Saint on two counts. The white crown and the red crown.
Yeah. He said, I'll take them both, right? Yeah. He had a vision of Our Lady when he was younger, right?
Yeah.
And she said, which would you like? What was it, purity or
which
martyrdom?
will you choose?
He said, I'll take them both.
That's my kind
Holy
of saint.
greed, right? All right, so let's pivot and talk about the solemnity that we're going to celebrate tomorrow, which is the Solemnity of the Assumption of the Blessed Virgin Mary, which is the fourth glorious mystery when we pray the Rosary, and dogmatized back in 1950 by Pope Pius XII. And it was Munificentissimus Deus.
Munificentissimus Deus. Most bountiful God.
Say that 5 times, huh? It's a dogma of the Catholic Church where he said, quote, he wrote, the Immaculate Mother of God, the ever Virgin Mary, having completed the course of her earthly life, was assumed body and soul into heaven. Before you go in, because I know you got a lot more to say about this, is it true that John Paul II declared during his pontificate that she did die? Because Pius XII left it open, right?
I would say no, but is it part of the dogma whether she died? Can we get to that later? But the big thing is this: we stub our toes, we get cancer, we get pandemics.
Yeah,
we are in exile right now in this life, and so it reminds us of original sin. Death is a punishment for original sin. That's the context in which we live. It's the context of the riots this summer and the Immaculate Conception and the Assumption. Now, I'm going to focus on the Assumption.
Yeah.
1950 made dogma. 5 years before that, the war just ended, right?
Yeah.
So it is hope that in this veil of tears, we too will one day be resurrected with Christ and his mother in heaven for eternity. That's awesome. So, there's real hope again in this midst of the curse. Okay, and that's what we hope for. So that's the number one thing with the Assumption is the hope in the midst of this veil of tears. It's the end of the curse, right? Because if you sin, if you eat that apple, you will die. And so we're thrust into this world of sin and woe and death. The final victory, resurrection. Okay. Now, did she? The question: did she die? Now you want to hone in on that?
Yeah. Well, no. That's obviously the more important issue.
That's the huge.
Yeah. That's the other one is somewhat minutia. Maybe it's important. Maybe not. But
well, it's an important issue. Did his infallible declaration in 1950 include in the dogma include the death? It did not. Okay, because in these declarations, they're like 10 pages long. Same thing with Immaculate Conception.
Yeah.
But the definition is literally one little sentence, one clause or a couple of clauses, right? That's it. And her death is not in that clause. But the Pope, about 5, 6, I count, maybe even 7 times in that document, talks about her death, her death, her death, her death. Nowhere does he say her death or her not death. He says her death. Okay, what do our Eastern Catholics say? And what do the Greek Orthodox say? Dormition is their feast, and the Dormition means sleep. It's a Latin translation of koimesis, I believe, for falling asleep. It means death. It's a euphemism for death. And there is a father, Epiphanius, who said, "I'm not sure what happened. I'm not sure if she died a martyr's death, a natural death, or she didn't die." That's Epiphanius. Okay. But what does John Damascene say? What does all the other Eastern fathers pretty much say? She died.
Yeah.
She died. She was in the tomb. What do they mean by she was preserved from corruption? In other words, her body didn't rot. One of the biggest traditions is, basically 40 hours later, 3 days later, after her death in the tomb, she was assumed into heaven.
Yeah.
That's resurrected, assumed into heaven.
Yeah.
So did you have to believe it dogmatically, like the Assumption if you're a Catholic? No. But what does the Church teach through her liturgy? What does she teach? And I'm talking the Eastern liturgies. Ludwig Ott says that in the Roman Rite, it's there. I just didn't see it. I was looking at the 1962 Missal. I didn't quite see it. But he's a great theologian.
Yeah.
And so he says it's in the liturgy. Pius XII says it 6 times in that encyclical. June 25th, 1997, John Paul II says the exact same thing. What are these? There's pious Catholics out there who says she didn't need to die. That's absolutely true. So her death was also redemptive, and that's what John Paul says.
Yeah,
redemptive.
Amazing. We, my wife and I, are doing a consecration to Jesus through Mary,
That's
the
awesome.
Saint Louis de Montfort.
Yes.
And of course, it culminates, on tomorrow with the
You picked
feast
the feast.
day.
You've been doing it for 30
Yeah,
days. That's a workout.
we're just about finished, and the particular one that we're doing has writings from Saint John Paul II, and then Saint Louis de Montfort. And I must say, and I don't know if you've done this consecration, Saint Louis de Montfort. There are times when I'm reading this, it's like, whoa, he's
overboard.
He's going a little far.
Yeah.
I mean, I love Our Lady. I don't know, but he is a saint. And I don't. What are your thoughts as you read this? And I think wow, he really loves Our Lady. But
I think some of the expressions with a lot of these things that you take them in context and whatnot. There's a general saying about Mary. About Mary, you can never say enough.
Yeah.
But you can say some wrong things, like she's God.
Yeah.
That's totally wrong. You can say she's worthy of worship. False. So no, dulia is the word. We hypervenerate, not hyperventilate. I agree with you. I'm with you.
Venerate.
Venerate.
Yeah, not
now,
ventilate.
Therese had difficulty saying the Rosary,
Mm-hmm.
but her piety wasn't a problem.
Yeah.
Right. So her prayer was so deeply just plunge me into the depths that to say the Rosary was kind of hard for her. But most of us are on kind of the other side of the curve on that one.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. I can hear some of the language and whatnot. You people can be a little bit uncomfortable with, but he's not promoting worship.
Yeah.
He's just promoting every last fiber of my being, trust her role in providence.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it comes across so beautifully. It's like, wow, this guy really loves Our Lady, and he just can't stop talking about her. And it is beautiful. So again, it's going to culminate, and I do recommend it. The consecrations, of course, there's a lot of different ones. Father Michael Gailey has the very popular 33 Days to Morning Glory, and there's other ones that have come out. But it's a great way. And also, it's good to do with your spouse or your family, because I think it's a great devotion.
You know, one of the things is there's so many rich devotions in the Catholic Church that are approved that if we make them obligatory on some individual by pressure, informally, they can feel like, wow, this is too much. I just like the Jesus prayer, or something like that. Fine.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's a lot of different variety, these different liturgical practices, different extra liturgical devotions.
I heard Sissel was recording her show yesterday, and she was talking about the Rosary and how that was, as a Protestant, because Sissel's only been a Catholic for
4 years?
4 years now, and were all these things kind of strange for you?
It was. First time holding a rosary, first time praying in adoration was all an experience.
Yeah, she said she went into adoration, and as you were still a Protestant, and they're like, "What's going on? What are they doing?"
They didn't realize I was a non-Catholic.
Bringing this piece of bread up there, and what's going on?
When's the miracle going to happen?
I was like, "What's happening? Are we doing mass now?" I was very confused. I was in RCA. We hadn't gotten to adoration yet.
Catholics are like that too. I mean,
true.
I didn't adoration until grad school.
That's. Let me ask you, because just about out of time, and this has been GRN Alive. Thanks everybody for who's been listening, calling. We still have a little bit of time, if you want to jump in and talk about the Assumption or anything that we've talked about during this last hour, 877-757-9424. I do want to talk about infallibility, because that was officially defined at Vatican I, right? Back in the late 19th century, was it?
Mid to late.
Yeah, and the two that everybody talks about, the Immaculate Conception and the Assumption, are those the only two ex cathedra infallible statements from the popes of the last couple centuries, or are there others?
That's what's commonly said. Yeah. But if you go back, for instance, Benedict XII, I forget the year, but he basically had to make good for his predecessor, who had been preaching something that the theologian said was heresy, which it was. So Benedict XII declared that after we're purified, after purgatory, we have the beatific vision even before resurrection. And we declare, we pronounce, we define.
Yeah.
So popes would say things like this: we declare, we pronounce, we define. But Boniface VIII, not a great guy, but he had an infallible thunderbolt there. Okay. Yeah. So there are other than these two ex cathedra pronouncements.
Yeah,
by the popes.
I'd never heard of that one that you were just talking about.
Benedict XII. Yeah, and a lot of people. So there's these others that are part of our faith.
And I love, and I may get my dates a little bit mixed up, but the infallible statement, I think it was Pius IX on Immaculate Conception comes, and then wasn't it like 4 years later that Our Lady appeared to Bernadette, and she said, "I am the Immaculate Conception." It's almost like she's saying, I'm going to go ahead and confirm that.
And the priest is like, "Do you know what that means?" And Bernadette says, "No."
Yeah.
Even the phrasing, "I am."
Yeah.
Because Maximilian Kolbe made a lot to do about that. I am the Immaculate Conception. And then he has a whole theology of the Holy Spirit on the basis of that.
Wow.
I don't understand it. He's too deep, man.
All right, that's going to do it. Thanks so much, Dr. Chris Malloy and Sissel Anderson, Diane Xavier on social media, and have a great feast day, and feast day today, Solemnity tomorrow, and it's a great weekend to celebrate Our Lady. And then thanks for listening. Don't forget, Joe and the team will be on Monday for the GRN Live Monday edition. And go ahead.
There's a big novena starting tomorrow too. Our bishops are asking us for a miracle in the USA.
Oh, is that right?
Wonderful.
Okay,
starting tomorrow. Look it up. Rosary. I think it's a Rosary novena.
All right. Okay. We'll see you next Friday. God bless you. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening to GRN Alive.
From the studios of the Guadalupe Radio Network.
For more faith, fun, and facts,
join our email list.
Just text the letters GRN to the number 42828. That's GRN to the number 42828. And may your Friday be filled with the joy of the Lord.
Blessed be God, blessed be his holy name, blessed be Jesus Christ, true God and true man, blessed be the name of Jesus, blessed be his